have under scrutiny, who plotting mutiny, and I watching them. I say I watching them, who giving the captain lip, and all who abandon ship, and I'm marking them. I say I'm marking them. Stowaways, keeping free passage, castaways with excess baggage, crimson pirates moving in to kill, but are sailing still. I say, I say. If Trinidad is a boat sailing on the earth, go sail on it. Oh Lord, I go sail on it. Whether it fast or slow, wheresoever it goes, I go in with it. Tell them I go in with it. I go sail when the tide is slack. I go sail when the tide is near. If she going to hell and back, I go make the trip. I'm bound to make the trip. I'm sailing with the boat, sink or float. I'm sailing with the boat. I'm sailing with the boat, sink or float. I'm sailing with the boat. Through hurricane and storm, hell or high water come. And when she needs a push, I'm going to push like bush. If Trinidad is a boat, I go sail on it, sink or float. Pessimistic who think soca boat going to sink. Tell them think again. I say tell them think again. And all who cherish the hope anchor run out the road. Tell them hope again. I say tell them hope again. I go bail when she spring a leak. Trim the sails when the winds get weak. If she stalling and she need a push, I go push like bush. Oh Lord, I go push like bush.
Yes, indeed, a pleasant good night to all and sundry. Yes, if Trinidad is a boat, then I will sail on it, sink or float, because we have to, of course, reintroduce, rediscover, and of course renew our commitment to democratic principles and the objectives of social and economic equity and development to Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to, of course, the Thursday night edition of the Corridor Transformation. Yes, once again, of course, pleasant good night to all and sundry. Yes, indeed, as we continue, of course, on this marvelous, sometimes frustrating, but certainly not devoid of excitement. Because, of course, every day that transpires in, of course, Trinidad and Tobago is a day closer, of course, to salvation and, of course, the liberalization and the amelioration of our circumstance, having regard, of course, to the capturing of government and the toxicity and the weaponizing of government against the people by the Rowley administration. That being as it may, of course, let me upfront to say that I will be refocusing on the Basio Pandey issue, because I want to make certain that we would have done justice, because, of course, we didn't carry much of the funeral, actual part of the funeral itself, so I want to focus tonight. But I also want to tell you that for those who believe that the community, irregardless, of course, in this case, my focus is on Laventille and environs, and therefore the East-West Corridor by extension. But for those who believe that somehow is pie in the sky, and that it is impossible, of course, to generate transformation from within the community, I want to tell you to think again. What has to happen, however, is that there must be a consensus at the national level is in sync, or can be in sync, or can resonate with, or mesh with, or synchronize with the local, or should I say, the community agenda advancement, and therefore build that into a national program that recognizes that every community may not have the same needs, because they would have developed at different stages and at different times, based, of course, on socio-economic and psycho-cultural realities. And, of course, for example, you cannot tell me that Federation Park or Valsain has the same physical
Lennox
needs
Smith,
as that
program
of Laventille, for example.
date 11th.
In other words, Laventille has
January
not yet reached, of
2024,
course,
part
that
28.
level. And therefore, we have to accept that as a pellucid fact. And we must not, of course, fool ourselves into believing that somehow we can, of course, overnight generate the transformation. What we can do, we can, of course, lay the platform, and, of course, we have incremental over time the transformation that requires, of course, a larger degree of what I consider to be metamorphosis as we move towards, of course, a better community, recognizing, of course, its role and responsibility, reducing crime and criminality, providing hope and opportunities, and as a consequence, the quality of life and standard of living must be improved as everybody industriously look towards making their input in order, of course, to bring Trinidad and Tobago out of the dismal abyss that it has found itself because of the incompetence, impotence, evil, wickedness, and diabolical conduct of course, a regime that has no qualms and therefore no limit to, of course, engaging in such a way so as to promote its own agenda. And of course, its agenda is one of total dominance and disregarding, of course, the plight of the poor man, while they pile on pressure after pressure after pressure in the form of taxes on singular salaries, or should I say unique salaries. People who, of course, are dependent on one salary in order, of course, to meet the multiple demands that this government has placed on such a salary. Yes, and that is the fundamental, and therefore that is distinct and apart from the multiple other issues that the individual and family must address, whether it be, of course, the acquiring or the search for food, or indeed maintaining a roof over their heads. Yes, or indeed the quality or the clothing that they must change and wear from time to time, and even keeping it, of course, tidy or hygienic, apart from grooming themselves to be acceptable based on the standard that is required. And in circumstances in the context of Trinidad and Tobago where we have a collapsing health system. I mean, it is simply a very monumental challenge, but 2025, alas, will come, as alas, 2024 has. Evil could never prevail over good. That being as it may, I was making a point about the community finding solutions to its problems. But it must not be in a vacuum. It must be a shared position. An ideal that says that it is on the community, its salvation and its amelioration and its, of course, liberalization and its, of course, freedom and its, of course, development relies. And I was making a point yesterday with respect, of course, to efforts made in the context of Laverton, and I will continue, but from a different perspective. Whilst, of course, I conclude the Pandey saga in terms of the funeral and, of course, and what transpired at the shore of peace, ultimately. But there are lessons therein. But let's go straight to the lines. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
I hope you had a good day today, my brother.
Speak a little louder.
Can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me now, my friend?
Loud and clear. Loud and clear. Yes.
Good night. Okay, I'm going to go in my room. Yeah, because you know what? We have slow internet and it's horrible. Internet service is terrible. With the oil, with the wealth that this country has, all that oil and gas money, LNG money, you would think we could be able to buy our own freaking satellite. India just sent up thousands of satellites out there, but we can't get one up yet, so we could have good internet service and access to technology. Anyway, then we forget about that. Lennox, I've been thinking a lot about your podcast and how you talk about the PNM and how you talk about all the things that we need to do. But by praising the UN and doing all of this stuff, nothing's going to change. Because the power that be, the 1%, the sand people, they will never stop. They have all of South America. They've got the judges and the lawyers, the Hadid, the Haddad. Even a lot of Iraq, Middle Eastern wealthy people have migrated to South America, and they've set up real strong alliances. So our world is changing, especially here in the Caribbean and in South America. People don't care about slavery now and indentured labor. So we're lamenting every year about it. The fact is that I think, in my mind, the only way to really create constitutional reform is you have to have a civil revolution. You have to have civil uprising. And people are afraid of that because they're afraid that people will die. People always have to die when you're fighting for freedom. And this country is too valuable to be slaughtered by an organization like the PNM. It's an assassination machine. It assassinates people climbing up the ladder who wants to make it. I say this not to incite insurrection or anything like that. I say this to tell my people that you've got to start reading and you've got to start being educated and don't be dumb and pretend you're reading when you don't understand what the hell going on. And when you speak to your children, you better talk to your children intelligently and speak English so they understand what you mean so you have that connection. Or else they're going to suffer the same fate. You see what happened in El Salvador recently, yesterday, January 9th, 2 days ago?
Yes.
There, a bunch of gangs went into a television station and terrorized everybody. A gang. And guess how old those gang members were? None of them were 14 and 15-year-olds. And we have nothing different from El Salvador. We are living the same plight like our people, our neighbors, because our young people here have no jobs, like you said. PNM doesn't promise anything except the Prime Minister building luggage companies, but this man have to travel soon, there are Louis Vuitton and all that thing coming out here. The thing about it is, he doesn't give a crap about the young people in this country. He doesn't care that young girls, and it's a fact, who goes to school, it could be your daughter, goes to a public school, and she's 13, 14, getting a period, she's now prepubescent, prepubescent, I'm sorry, I'm trying to pronounce the word. That's good.
Caller, yes, I'm seeing it being reflected on the system that we have lost that caller. But of course, the number to call, don't forget, of course, is only WhatsApp. All right, okay, we are. Let's me see what has happened if we can rejoin. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Welcome to the corridor.
Mr. Lennox, Mrs. Valstein here.
Good night to you as well. Good night to you. Good night to you.
How are you? How was your day? And I want to send my best wishes. I want to send my best wishes to Andy.
Yes, I'm sure that you'd be grateful.
You know, my topic tonight is very simple. Parents need to take responsibility for the children. And I'm so sorry about that little boy, the 15-year-old boy. Right? I'm really sorry. But I think the mother, with all my feeling, she should take time in jail and let her know how life is. People don't send children to kill in school. People don't send children to educate this and become something in life. And I'm very, very sorry about that. And if the two mothers have the two decency, they should contact the little boy mother. It was very sad. It is very, very sad. Very sad. And I think school needs to bring something down that when you get on in that kind of behavior, go into jail and face the big man and them will do crime and they will know what the time is. I'm very sorry for that mother. And all the mothers, they go through those things with the children in school. We send the children to school to educate themselves, not to do them kind of nonsense. You understand? We make sacrifice for the children. But children, parents, the two 15-year-old parents, they come together and go to that woman. They just as well as worse as the children and them. Right? And good night, Mr. Santa Cruz. And Mr. Lennox, you take care, have a good night, and have a safe journey home. Don't matter what it is, God with you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. I will be communicating with you because you did ask of me to do something, and I'm sure that you are listening, and I would want, of course, to speak with you as to what you would like me to assist with. So I may well call you tomorrow, Friday, or Saturday, because it doesn't make a difference to me in terms of when the need arises and you have an opportunity or you have the capacity to assist, then I will, of course, make the telephone call. So if I don't, most likely I'll do it tomorrow. If not, of course, on Saturday for sure. So rest assured, I have taken note, and I am a man of my word. I said that I will do something, and I will do it. All right. So but that being as it may, of course, you see at the back of me, I thought it was important, of course, to prove, because you see, caller will say, and many skeptics will also endorse, that talk is cheap, and that the fruits of your labor or the fruits of the talk, if talk precedes it, must be action. You see, because it is said that action speaks louder than words. And an ounce of action is better than a pound of talk. I agree. Let me repeat. An ounce of action is better than a pound of talk. In other words, a gram of action is better than a kilogram of talk. So I thought it was important, of course, not to just to promote something that I would have been involved in and was at the helm, but to demonstrate tonight that with community consensus agreement and even with individual action, a difference can be made from within. And if that is a light, or should I say a fire that would have lit in different communities, oh, what a conflagration it will make. When, of course, fires are lit in different communities, what a conflagration it will make. And of course, I'm talking here figuratively, not literally. I am not advocating for the burning down of the country, but I'm asking for a human spirit, a camaraderie, a consensus, if not a unanimous disposition for action in order, of course, to transcend what is being purported or what is being meted out for government and governance. And in fact, it is really, of course, the weaponizing of the resources and the other aspects and elements of the state against the people by a organization called the PNM that is now out of control, and that, of course, it is marauding, it is, of course, evil, it is wicked, it is diabolical, it is barbaric, and, of course, has no sense of what I consider to be restraint. And so I thought it was important, of course, to prove tonight that the thought that will, of course, be initiated in your cranium through the brain, through your intellect. Big things start in small places. And we have examples all over Trinidad and Tobago, the region, the hemisphere, and the globe. Let's go straight, of course, into the lines. President, good night. Welcome to the corridor. Welcome to the corridor.
Yes, Mr.
Go ahead.
Mr. Balchin here.
Yes.
I have things in motion about my husband's death, and I take most two top lawyer.
Right.
But I will invite you home with my lawyer, so you will have proof of what they did with my husband.
Right.
I don't want to talk nothing over the air.
No,
I
no,
want
no.
you to
That's what I'm
come
saying. That's
home,
why I say I will call
sit
you
down
or
with my
contact
two
you.
lawyers, and I will discuss.
Yes. All right. So,
Right?
thank you very
But
much.
I know what is what. But if the government feels they're getting away, what they've done to my husband, backed by them and crap on them.
Yes, indeed.
Right? So
Yes.
very left that is just say you contact me and you will come. But Mr. Lennox, I really feel sorry for that mother.
Yes, I hear you. In
Because
spite
I'm
of
a mother, I'm a
your tragic
grandmother.
circumstance, yes. I mean,
I feel sorry.
you sound
And
genuine.
parents
You
need
sound
to take
genuine. Yeah.
action for the children.
Yes.
Right? And if in some way all of us could help that woman, let she get a good attorney and let me put them two boys in jail.
Yes. And you will see tonight where, I mean, it is Laventille we are talking about, a place that has the higher than national average crime and criminals, higher than national average, of course, gangs and gang leaders, higher than national average school dropouts, higher than national average youth pregnancy, and I finish yet. I'm making the point to generate or secure another point. Let's go straight, of course, to our external correspondent, Mr. Santa Cruz. A pleasant good night to you, ma'am. A pleasant good night. Good night to you. Trust that everything working now. Good night.
Hello?
Good night, good night, good night.
Are you here, Lennox?
Yes, I'm hearing you now. I'm hearing you now. Yes.
Lennox, everyone, Lennox.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
You know,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
90 murders in states.
Yes.
But they only can close. And with all the success of a success was there. And the pain. These people, every the PM, no, and none of this stop.
No. You're not coming across. You're not coming across. You're coming across to two disjointed. You have to call back. Call back and see if we can get a better.
Breaking up.
Yeah, breaking up. You're breaking up. No, it's not. That's good.
But
Breaking up too much. Let's call back. I'll tell you what, Ms. Santa Cruz, of course, your contributions are too invaluable to, of course, to just leave, to follow or to be left to its own devices. So please call back and let's see if things will improve a little later. But it's not doing justice to the seriousness of the issue. I gleaned from what you have said about the murder situation in this country thus far. Let's see if this call will suggest that there may be some problem on the other side. Present, good night. Welcome to the corridor. Welcome to the corridor.
Good night, Mr. Lennox.
Good night to you.
And all the listeners on the World Wide Web.
Yes, songing
and
good.
all the contributors. Mr. Lennox, tonight I hear you and I get to understand two things. The problem in Laventille, when you're trying to talk, when you are talking to them, they will not understand. Maybe when you're saying, one man, they're giving all you to learn a little trade for those who never put all the parents in a good paying job. And all the mother was vulnerable to sexual predators in the 80s and the 90s coming up. And when they make the children they was just left vulnerable without any social program to see about their well-being. And you have to tell them that the parents wanted them like how they are in this present time. Don't use the big words. You understand? Because it cannot allow them to be this as if they change other way, or they will be too educated to vote for the other party to give other betterment and good paying job. So you have to listen to both every time you pull up in the harbor. Because under the PNM, when they build the port at Point Lisas, look at what jobs they had taken away from Lavantil. Because a lot of single mothers who had a little boyfriend used to go and get a little casual work, a little hustle. Now, when they bring the cargo down in Point Lisas, look at what they went dormant. And they never absorb them in any special program to make sure they are employed. And Elon Musk up in Mobile had them working how much? And they was just building the communities. And the little URP, they tell themselves that was a quick fix. But not able to take care of their offsprings and educate them to let them learn to read and write the basic things. And when they finally had break the yoke of that tradition and give them everything, I think the PNM had seen the successors on them is that the Treasury will no longer be in their position to have mass destruction. And they went tooth and nail to all the avenues and party groups to battle them. And you see, today on a program, they're talking Indian bad and Indian bad and Indian this and Indian is good. But when they get to realize that the same African diaspora, they are not putting them in the Senate and giving them the position to represent the country, but they keep the contracts and everything. I have said on a program one time, how much PNM party group chairman that is party group people is so on them go offer to buy a tire for tobacco. How much of them can get a contract or they have money? So the people, when they're hungry, they go out there. And it was guided by other entities, the elements of wrongdoing to make a quick bucks. Because in those days in South was car thieving. Before the car thieving come up, it was thieving at deck, a radio from a car. And then they start thieving the whole car. And then you see what was. And then you see the ring. Hi, people in big business get caught up in it. But it was exported to Guyana. So when you are telling them that the manifesto and is showing them that how one can hate a party that delivers for each and every citizen and make them equal and alleviate poverty, that the slave catchers entrap them and turn them back against giving them a better day to put them in slavery. So it's a good job. And I hope that the people themselves will understand in modern times that a man telling you use the coal pot and ride a bicycle. Eh? You know how to have a bicycle tire? You know how to have a coal? That is more expensive. So, Mr. Ross, good work. And let the call on the education minister to buck up. Because billions of dollars, the thieving through the entity, the thieving it. And you can see that it's thieving. Because Clark Road, I want to ask you this before I close up here. But is the house, when the Archbishop Harris, whether he sell or he give the Catholic school the land to the PNM, so he didn't get enough money to build his school in Clark Road. So he give away the land. Have a nice night.
Yes, indeed, my friend. Yes, indeed. And once again, we have to practicalize and we have to demonstrate. And of course, analysis is also critical. And we need to give justice and due where due and justice is required. And as I said, you are known by your works, not by your talk. Talk is cheap. And so last night, whilst I said and commended Basio Pandey for, of course, giving the political arm of the Laventil, the political arm of Laventil, generated by Laventilians, for Laventilians, and of Laventilians. And as I said, Julia Davy was part of it. She has, of course, gone blind, of course. She is now wearing darkers and blinders, but that is all right. That is all right. Because we know that someone else led the people of Israel into the promised land when, of course, Moses could have, of course, only reached so far and no further. So there is biblical parallel to what is required here. It is a very long relay, and it will take many eventually liberate communities along the east-west corridor. But of course, my focus would have been that of the Laventils, geographic Laventil, that is, that has been divided, of course, into political Laventil, east to west, and of course, a Port of Spain south. But the point I am making here is that you Laventilians have within your capacity to, of course, generate the amelioration and the of course, neutralizing of those negative elements and making certain that we can advance as a people, because we can demonstrate to our young people that to pick up a gun or to be part and parcel of a gang is irrelevant. It is ocious, not necessary, but we can provide you with substantive and sustainable alternative or outside of the school environment or at home or in the neighborhood. I want to say, and that is why I have, of course, committed myself to, of course, attend the crime symposium or the crime talks that, of course, the UNC will be engaging, because it is crucial and critical. Is the people within those communities who will find and know the solutions, whether it be simple as, of course, increased police presence, or it may be other factors, because the increase in police presence in places like Laventil does not mean that there will be a reduction, as we have seen. So there must be some other factors that may have been overlooked by the authorities, because you see, there is this propensity by solutions, and they turn out to be blockheaded mules. Imagine a mule is already considered to be blockheaded. Some say they're smarter than Rowley and them, but for the purposes of this discussion, blockheaded mules, they have no idea as to what to do. But if they were studious, and if they were conscious, and if they were concerned in the true sense of the word, and let me tell you this, I say so because the evidence is so pellucid and so transparent and so conspicuous that there is no need. It has now become a cliche or a maxim. It is now axiomatic that Rowley and they believe that somehow they can, of course, capture power and force the resolution of crime and criminality, the murders and so on, that continues to escalate in spite of their delusions. And I say so because they are not going to change. As I indicated some time ago, tigers will not change their stripes, nor leopards their spots. Yes, indeed. And when Rowley said that he does not have to attend a meeting that he convened with the opposition, I knew that it was another cop-out and another inability, of course, to manage the affairs of the country and to, of course, address a significant issue that is existential, the question of murders, crime and criminality, which, of course, it's intractable as far as they're concerned. Let's go to the lines. President, good night. Welcome to the corridor. Welcome to the corridor.
Okay, good night, Lennox.
Good night to you.
Yes, good night, Lennox. I hope you can hear me. Good night. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Yeah, you can hear me? Okay, I'm thing, right?
Yes.
All right. So I'm gonna sound harsh tonight because I'm just like I'm fed up, okay? Like totally fed up. You see, I'm somebody who is a totally open-minded. I believe in gay rights. I believe in human rights. I believe people have a right, humans have a right to live their life with dignity, and live freely without fear of persecution because of their religious ideology or their own philosophical ideology, as long as it doesn't interfere with your rights. And as long as those rights that we agree on is collective among all of us. But today in this country, and what I see is that we have a lot of young children having children, girls especially, and a lot of young boys, teenage boys, the minute they cross over to 14 and 15, they look like an old drunk, the way they look. They look like they've been drinking alcohol for years. They're emaciated, pants falling down, unshaved, dirty looking, sloppy looking. And that is the poster child of grandpa and nanny and aji and aja. And people just find it so convenient to cohabitate. They'll hook up with a woman with 4 children, and he have 3 children with another girl and 2 with another one. She have 4 children with 4 different fellas, and they living together. They have no will, they have no property, they have no real jobs, and they just shucking up. And I he wife, and he love she, and can't provide, can't even teach his child how to read and write. And I say this because, you see, Lennox, you and I come from a generation, and a lot of the older people, where when education was so valuable, because when this country became independent and oil was discovered, Dr. Williams realized that, hey, what did you say?
No, you go ahead. I silence the mic in order to talk to someone in studio. Go ahead, you go ahead.
All right, so yeah, I'm gonna share. I'm gonna share how we became such an immoral speaker of the nation. You know, like when Eric Williams won the election, he wasn't the founding father. He's never a founding father. He was a poetry student, and the way he spoke, you know, it was just it was all a show. But anyway, when Eric Williams became the prime minister, it was all about the oil and gas. And what he did was he moved all the African, Trinidadian, Afro, French Creole, white people into the oil industry. And Kanye said that. He said when he was growing up, Indian people never worked in the oil industry as engineers. They either became doctors or lawyers, right? And that's it. Every Indian family wanted the child to be a doctor or a lawyer. But in Trinidad, you have to be, if you are a person of Trinidad and you're a PNM or you're close to the politicians, you would go into the engineering field and you would be in the oil and gas sector. But that changed after so many people came into office. But the whole thing about Eric Williams was that he denied so many people access to basic information and basic access to necessities to provide a good way of life. Like, for example, he never really improved the schools. He only built government schools because the British told him, as part of the independence of the nation, he had to build schools. So he was like, yeah, we're going to build some schools. He had money coming in from the oil industry, and Shell was already here. Texaco was here. We had all the big oil companies here. What I'm saying, Tal, is that when my father was growing up, my father couldn't read and write. So my mother used to sit with a candle or a flambeau and teach my father to sign his name so that he could get a driver's license and become a farmer with a badge or whatever they have to be, the ID card to plant sugar cane. And she did that for him, teaching him how to write his name. Because we used to print, elderly people used to print the fingerprint. Remember those? People still do that when they go to vote. Imagine 2023 and people still using fingerprints in this country. But what I'm getting at is this, that division that Eric Williams caused, where you have this such inequity of education access, has carried forward. That's why we have so many young boys who can't read and write. They drop out at 14 and 15, and they're shacking up with a girl, and she pregnant, and nobody cares. Government don't care, social service don't care. So that pathway that Eric Williams created mentally is still surviving, and we call that the plantation economy. And so what I'm saying, Tali, is that we could preach all day and night, we could do whatever we want. Nothing is going to change until you have a real revolution. And we always say a revolution of the mind. Malcolm X said that. But American Africans are still fighting for that right. And they're exploiting each other. Just listen to Oprah Winfrey and all that nonsense going on with Kanye West and P. Diddy. You're going to know what I'm talking about. But you know what I mean? So what I'm saying to all is this. Nothing's going to change. Nothing is going to change because the education system is fragmented and frozen unless we have real constitution reform. And we need to talk about what is constitutional reform and what it means to be a citizen of Trinidad. Because all this talk again, no way, and we could braid till morning come, but people need to get guns and they need to just rise up because I'll tell you something. Them gangs and them, they're gonna get younger, and your child, your daughter, your son, she a government school, highly likely she will get raped in school before she graduates. That's a fact. That is my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have one comment to make on that position, because it is a position. It is, in my view, idealistic. I say idealistic because why there is a complaint within that argument that there are talk shops such as this, for example. That is the impression, that is the inference, and of course elsewhere as well, whether it be Alan Roberts, whether it be Victor Roberts and the ground report, etc. But alas, the solution from that argument is constitutional reform. But there is this skepticism that nothing will go right, or there will be no substantive remedy without constitutional reform. And that I agree, but the point is that you have to talk constitutional reform still. So it is contradictory in terms of attempting, of course, to prevent the talk by inviting more talk.
Good night, Mr. Lennox.
Pleasant good night. Welcome. Yes. Good night.
Can you do something for me? You're breaking up real bad.
All right. Well, nothing I could do. I've done what
Are
I
you
could
hearing
do.
me?
Yes. Go ahead.
I know you're doing your best to do. Could you give my number to Mr. Vander based in Santa Cruz, please?
All right. I will privately. I will
Because I
not
would
do it.
like
Okay.
you and Miss Santa Cruz to be there.
All right. Good. No problem.
Right, don't put it on the air, you know?
Yeah. Definite.
Okay,
All right.
and actually you should call me in about 10 minutes time, you know?
Yes. Okay. No problem. All right. Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. So I was saying that you're replacing one set of talk with the next set of talk, because you must talk in order to achieve constitutional reform. But of course, the reality is that we have a constitution that we must work with. In the meantime, what do we do? What do we do? Absorb and accept an increase in, of course, the present condition, whilst, of course, constitutional talk is convened and is fleshed out to its ultimate. A pleasant good night. Welcome. Yes, welcome.
All right. Okay, it's me again. I know people are saying so. Yes, thank you, Lance. I'm not going to talk long because I know people are getting annoyed.
Yes. I was just making the point that you are replacing one talk with an excellent talk.
I'm going to make it quick. What I was alluding to in my previous comment was that maybe as part of family planning, maybe young people should be sterilized, young women, and maybe young boys should have should have vasectomies because we have too many young people reproducing, and they're not producing success stories. They're producing gangsters and prostitutes, and I don't
Right,
see
sterilization
I don't see where we're going with this. I'm sorry, it sounds really harsh, but that's my comment. Okay, pass.
I hear you. I mean, that's a bit extreme. I mean, I hear you. I know that the Chinese tried it, and now they are telling people have any amount of children they have now because there was an imbalance in terms of the should I say stock, and of course the elderly, which is inevitable. Once you're born, you will grow to maturity, and then, of course, you become elderly. But there are over preponderance of elderly now, and know, of course, what I consider to be vitalized and vivacious individuals to, of course, take over the reins as youths, and then, therefore, they have it, of course, to the lines. And then, of course, I will prefer my solution. One of many, I'm sure, but certainly a solution that could be considered in the context of my own experience and analysis of the Laventille situation that could be transplanted into other areas of the country. Professor, good night. Welcome to the corridor. Professor, good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Yes, Lennox, good night. Calling from Tobago East, man.
Yes, good night to you, my friend.
I have to remember there was a problem with the mill shop project. You remember?
Yes.
Project in Tobago, they call it mill shop project?
Yeah. For the agricultural, for the agricultural elements of
right.
the
And you remember
THAs.
it was some friends of the PNM who was involved in all that nonsense?
Yes, of course. Yes, a former mayor, son, who bought
right. No.
and sell back.
Yeah.
Yes, go
right.
ahead.
Now there are similar situation arising now in Tobago again. Now they're supposed to be rebuilding the Scarborough Secondary School, right?
Yes.
But the Tobago House Assembly have a lot of estate and a lot of land in Tobago. But you know what they're going to do? Friends and family again. They're going by INES. Development now. Purchasing land to build Scarborough Secondary in Bakelet. Right? And Tobago House Assembly has so much land all about. But they're going to purchase land because it's friends and family again. You understand? And then you know who will benefit too.
Hear you.
So everything for these people is conflict of interest and corruption. Everything is corruption and conflict of interest. Every single thing. But you know what's going on right now? You know, like the solid park quarry, like it grind into a horse.
All right.
Right?
Okay.
Because why I'm learning today is that it's a long time they can't do no blasting because I didn't get the dynamite and all that kind of thing to do the blasting. So to me, like what happening to them right now? Like they just have to be milling wherever material they have on the ground because they can't do no blasting. So I don't know because they had a dispute with the Prime Minister and Fari and all them over that Korean thing with some kind of selling of material and thing. You know?
Yes.
So I don't know if it's a deliberate act by the Prime Minister and others to get that plan, that Stony Park quarry shut down. I was glad for them to answer that question. If they hear it for them to answer that question, because I can't understand that just have an assault so they're talking but they can't get material to do the blasting and the hole. They're on a hole. So for all of them need to come out and tell the public what's really going on in Stony Park.
Yeah.
They need to really tell people what's going on in that corridor. Because all the PNM folks and their partners and their friends and all kind of things, since Fali come, they finally remove all of them. Because it was a whole syndicate of corrupted people was running that Stony Park corridor. So as Fali and someone decided to put an end to all the nonsense. So, you know, the Prime Minister and all the friends and them, they decide to do what they want now. They decide to sabotage it. That's what going on with all of them.
Sabotage, out of vindictiveness.
You understand?
And malice, yes, I agree with you. That is typical of we see it
Yeah, because
with this
I for a long while
audio
now, for a long while now,
tape.
they meant do no blasting.
Yeah, we see it with the audio tape as well. The audio tape, this
Yeah.
elusive audio tape. I mean, I don't know how the police in Trinidad could find themselves embroiled in that nonsense.
You understand? Yeah, well, probably they apply to some license was to export material from the corridor. Now.
Right.
And you know, because of the same dispute with he and his partners and all them, they try to spite the President Tobago Assembly from doing so. So now they kind of grinding them to halt to bring them to, you know,
yes,
to have them submit to them.
To the knees.
Yes,
to beat them into submission. That
but
is
people
what
don't know what's going on really taking place in that corridor because I was doing some investigation today and I realized that the quarry itself, all that they're doing right now is milling the material they have there. And for a long while now, they stopped the blasting and all that. So, and the claim is that they don't have no money to buy material to do the blasting. So, that is on a hold. So, I don't know what really taking place. So, I need to come out and tell people in Tobago what really going on and who caused that problem and what caused that problem.
Yeah.
Right. So, Lennox, I listened to the program and I put in two cents and all kind of things.
The news of the monumental brutality, ruthlessness, covetousness, deception, maliciousness, and blatant abuse of office. It's no surprise that Fally and they will be, of course, victim because Rowley believed that central government, being in central government means that he can continue with his dictatorial and autocratic and, of course, total and absolute political dominance. Even though, of course, the people are showing categorically a tendency away from the PNM. He will not rest until, of course,
the sterilization, the sterilization, and even the operating theater, the machine not working. So you will get all kind of bacteria in the hospital and in the laundry room. So Mr. Lennox, when you have some way along the line, when you want constitution reform, it's kind of like if I asking you on a topic about sex, right? How to have intercourse. And you're telling me how nice it is and what it is. But nobody ever tells the participants of them that there are consequences that when they get pregnant if certain things happen. And when that happens, you have a responsibility to provide. And if you don't have, like how we was on the cane field, because indentured laborers, that is our colonial past. Because just as the Civil War is celebrated in America up to this day, and they're teaching the children the history of the Civil War and the effects and what it did to American economy, and then the Great Depression. So people have to understand that you're explaining what constitutional reform is. Everybody knows our country is rich in energy, gas, and oil, but where is the money going? So under constitutional reform is that you just like the programs on the manifesto that you are reading out. So the people to understand who are listening, because we accuse the UNC for neglecting the people in Lavantil and the PNM strongholds. And that is why they will say the other party didn't care about them and they're pushing the narrative. And it's why they're showing them now where are the programs and the need, down to the basic need for the people. Because that need can't go down on Westmoreland or up in Flagstaff Hill and give them the same manifesto to provide for them the same thing. Their children go to special school. So you are showing, letting people understand that you are explaining that they have missed the boat from since 1956 and all this hardship. And you know, it's one thing, some people are understanding that under PNM, the mass migration of the African diaspora to Brooklyn and New York, you know, and when they had make their life, and that much a lot of homes and children who was left with grandparents and friends here. And that is where the PNM has failed them, and you are identifying what they have and what they so apt to have, be possession right now. So, and in elevation, some people don't understand that when you have to explain how to get yourself out of it, and you will not be vulnerable to the predators of the PNM, because the law will protect you. Just like how they mash up the selection of a police commissioner, they mash up the integrity commission, they went and they mash up the Port Authority Board, and you see what they do with TNTech, the RIA, the RIC. They come and they push down something with the 35th citizen throat, the property tax. But in Constitution reform say that you, the people, by the way of referendum, that will never happen. And it just showed people how they can protect themselves. And the only party that pushing that narrative already was Balde Pandey by passing basic laws. So we as a people have to understand to be our brother keepers and try to unite each and every one going forward. Have a nice night.
Yes, indeed. And people, I know it may for some be difficult to follow because of the complexities and the various nuances that are involved in the complex scenario or situation that Trinidad and Tobago has found itself. But we will iron it out. We will iron out the ruffles and of course see if we can put some sanity to this entire affair. Let's go straight to the lines again. Boys, numbers after numbers, but we have to give way to the callers. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Good night.
Yeah, good night, Mr. Lennox. All the best to you, New Year's, and to your audience as well.
You and yours as well. You and yours as well. You and yours as well. Go ahead.
Something concerning the education system now.
Yes.
It seems like, I don't know if these teachers in the government secondary schools and probably even primary schools as well, I don't know if the moral low, I don't know what it is going on, but something ain't adding up. I went into a secondary school yesterday considering my child something taking place now. And I spoke to a social worker in the school.
Mm-hmm.
I had an issue with my child, have no textbook in she bag Tuesday morning. So she told me something and I take it to her in the morning. So when I went back in after the pick the child now and I make my observations, most of the children bag of them big. So I went to the pilot directly if that class had some special thing with it and they bring the books or whatnot. And that was not the case.
Okay.
Right? But apparently, here was the trend in the school now. They have a new bag, they call it The children them want to keep the bag at the back whole time because it's Tyler. So by doing that now, they're not coming to school with the textbook and because the textbook is by the back heavy. There's the level we reach, there's the level we're reaching to.
So the bag is for style? Are you saying that the bag is just for style?
I say that probably.
The bag is just for style?
Yeah, the bag is a bag of trending now. Like back in huh?
No, I just asked it. It sounded hilarious, so I just asked if the bag is for
That bag
style.
was trend. Oh no! What going on? The bag, the bag come like a style.
That's
If
what I'm
you go
saying.
up
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
on,
All
go up
right.
on Amazon and check the price of the bag of them.
Yes.
The
There's a
bag,
brand. There's a brand. There's a brand. A brand.
what's
A
in
brand.
a,
A brand.
what's in
Yeah.
a, the bag,
But no
yeah, the
books.
bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, there's a book bag was trending now.
Yeah.
But the price of the bag for some of the bags of them is more money than bookless. The bag of them is more money than the booklet. So I say it's better than they move the University of the Western Hills and put it in South Trinidad. Because them Trinidad travel to part of the UP. Because apparently like trending not partly occupying and making use of the University of the Western Hills. It's mostly trending south. It's what going to UP.
Say that one see it as an enigma. What it is, you couldn't contemplate even if you invented it. That what is unfolding in the society, whether it's school, whether it's in sports, whether it's in the office of the Prime Minister, whether it's the office of the agricultural minister, the health minister, or the ministry, and we can go on and on, welfare, etc. Because what he just said there, I mean, it caught my attention because I would have had a recent experience as well.
Give me a thumbs up.
Yes, clearly, lovely, lovely and
What
clearly.
I'm saying is, it wouldn't have any togetherness. I heard Mr. Faisabad talking about togetherness. It didn't have no togetherness. Nobody from Levantil and these areas in the north here getting together with anybody in the south. We have to face it. Kamala had thousands and thousands of voters from South and Central, and with any togetherness, is they have to get things together. About the property tax, that will be my subject. You know, when I stick on something, I ain't coming off so.
I know
The
that.
property tax was placed there to attack the rich with the large houses, the mansions. Some of them have mansions, not only a large house. So, the majority that have large houses are the Indians. So we have to face it, right? We need to polish that, okay? They not getting together, right, to make a stance. So everything that I have my money to pay, that is their attitude. These people with their mansions, they will pay. So as Rowley say, who live, live, and who dead, dead. I listened to Miss Madras about the ills in society, right? I see it all behind your head a while ago, Lavantilians, but I want to say all over this country has problems. Every time is always Lavantil, Mova. We must talk about the other parts of the country. Why not talk about Penal and Debane? It has had problem down there too. It has had terrible crime with family members killing family members for land. Why is always the black people in Lavantil? It has terrible domestic abuse where they marry the children, have arranged marriages to older men. As Chuck just say, 97 cannot go into 14, right? So look at these things. Don't be one-sided. All this is problems in society. And I find every time it's the black people, the black people, the black people. These people have terrible problems. It have in relationship with family members and all kind of problems where they have suicides. The suicide rate is high, and that is a problem. Okay? So I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much. And while I broaden the discussion, we have to be not just realistic, pragmatic, and of course eclectic, meaning that we must be systematic. All these problems exist. The reality is that you do not hear about any one of those against Trinidad and Tobago. Let me repeat. I say that when the Americans want to come to Trinidad, when the Canadians want to come, when the British want to come, when the Germans want to come, they tell their citizens, do not come to Trinidad. But if you do by chance, do not go to Laventille, do not go to Duncan Street. Why must we not focus first on these areas? I am not saying that the others are pristine and of course devoid of any, but we have to deal with the problem as we see it, because we will create a further problem by focusing where it's a wrong priority, as opposed, of course, to dealing with what the issue is. Press, good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good night. Good night. Yes, good night, Mr. Lennox. Good night. Yeah, what happened? Your program is very informative, but I think we need to come together and form some form of protest, because this talking in program every night during the morning period, we are reaching nowhere. We are reaching nowhere. We need to mobilize the citizens and come out and make a stand. We need to make a stand. Because if we are making a stand, if the government will take heed, we need to come out. You need to mobilize the people to come out. Each constituency need to mobilize the citizens and come out at their protest. Otherwise, we won't reach nowhere. How long we could be living in this country like this again? You're paying for water, and here you ain't no water. You're paying for water, and here you ain't no water. We need to mobilize the citizens. Right? Each member of parliament need to mobilize the constituency. So try and work on that, Mr. Lennox. Try and work on that, and let me do this country going down. Try and mobilize the citizens. Make that be the objective. Okay, Mr. Lennox, over.
Thank you very much, of course. And I agree. Every single opportunity to address the matter must be explored. I agree with that. And there no doubt are persons who have been doing that. We saw, of course, the trade unions did it 3 times. Pushback 1, pushback 2, pushback 3, pushback 4, pushback 5. Unless you're saying that the UNC must, of course, talk to their respective parliamentary representative and their constituents to bring out something larger. I am making a particular point that this government is so recalcitrant and so bent on digging itself in, and it will be very, very, very difficult. In fact, they are so hardy that will not make a difference, because they just get licks with the local government. And Rowley is saying, listen, I still have central government because I have a year again or 2 to go. So we have to be very meticulous, and we should be, of course, yes, this discussion is healthy, and I agree. I press a good night to welcome to the corridor. Welcome to the corridor.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lennox. And your last call was, yes, thank you, Lennox. You could hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
I'd just like to make a quick comment and respond to Mr. Arima. Yes, Mr. Arima, oh my God, thank you for acknowledging me. And I want to tell you, I agree with you. Everything you say is true. When we talk about crime, we talk about Laventille and Movat, and Maloney, and all these other places that are urbanized, and because there are villages too, eh? Those are all villages, and I live in a village too. And the problems that are in Laventille are the same problems in my village with teen pregnancy, young people no jobs. Um, where I live, all the young boys climb coconut tree and half the time they're stoned or drunk or drinking beer at a young age because there are no jobs. And the school system sucks. It's horrible. And if a little boy has broken families, he comes from a poor family living with grandpa, he's going to get exploited by an older man in the village who's probably going to hire him, pay him nothing, no NIS, and just use them. That's what we do in villages. From here to Mova to South to Point, everywhere in this island. And it's not regulated. We're not building families, we're breaking homes. And I feel like it has to stop because this recklessness of, of not having a sense of consciousness of why we are here is missing. Because we only came here because of exploitation and transplantation, you know. And
Yes.
all of our problems are the same. We bleed the same, we hurt the same, and we are one people. And I feel like if they are not going to listen to us, if our own people that we put there are not listening to us, how low could we go? We got to get rid of them. Get rid of them. You know, and change everything. Because I'll tell you something. We're not here for a long time, right? But thousands of years ago, people, hundreds of years ago, centuries ago, people owned all of this land. And look at this land now, it's divided. It could start back over again. It's always new tomorrow. And the people who own a lot of property in this country should be afraid, eh? Because I'll tell you something, too many people in this country who lived here for centuries have nothing. And that is morally wrong. That is why we need constitutional reform. And that savings clause in the Constitution needs to go. And I tell Mr. Rima, with your thinking and my thinking, Gil, we could make waves. But we have to be positive. We have to be proactive, and hopefully Gil Smith and Wesson building a factory, a gun factory in Brazil is coming up. So we could be infiltrated with guns from Smith and Wesson. Telling you, United States, they know how to keep we on the up there. All right, Lennox, that's my comment. Thank you, my friend.
Yes, I note earlier that you said that you are cautious and that you hope that you're not tinkering on, of course, sedition and or violent revolution. But of course, I want to conclude that I know that you will always nestle your argument and anchor your concern, of course, in the democratic processes that we have, of course, identified and outlined that are being breached on a daily basis by this government. But at the end of the day, in the very contemporary or existing constitution provides for the change of government by ballot, not by bullet. The very nature of that position, because the change of government has come before. So we cannot say that it never happened and it will not happen. That's the beauty about this entire scenario. To what extent the people are going to, of course, tolerate, stomach, absorb like a sponge the iniquities and the abuse and the role or the root of physical foot on the streets, whether you take the position as what we are doing every night, talking about the matter, and by sheer frequency, we are able to reach more and more people to ignite their consciousness. Because you know that this is a one-man, one-vote scenario. That is the ultimate, because that position is nearing, you know. It's just one this year and that's it, you know. So the impediment of which we speak It requires a collective sharing of position and consciousness to say that these people are iniquitous and that they must be eliminated from the decision-making processes in Trinidad and Tobago because of their threat to our democracy. So whether we talk about revolution in terms of violence, or whether we are serious or we are merely toying with the idea, the fact of the matter is that there is a solution. And the solution is upon us. And this year is the penultimate year. And of course, all of the solutions before, we have been, of course, addressing, whether it be in terms of moving closer towards getting rid of Rowley and his miscreants. As I said, we have had several pushbacks. The trade unions have had at least 3 or 4 major activities, boots on the ground. But we have a common denominator and a consistency, and that is programs such as the ground report and the nightly efforts of the corridor transformation, specifically designed to treat with these people. I am not going to shift. Why must I? Because the problem, in more ways than one, is the east-west corridor in the context of elections, in the context of social degradation and deterioration, and of our economic, let's say, fortunes. All of that, because the common denominator in terms of the impediment and the humbug and the stifling of the liberation that is required and the so-called amelioration as well as the freedom is the Rowley PNM administration that is at the center of all of this, and they have demonstrated an uncanny recalcitrance. They have decided to dig in. They have decided, of course, to ensconce themselves, and will not be deterred by whatever is thrown at them at this stage. If they decide, as they have, not to respond, of course, to pushback 1, pushback 2, or responded with, of course, tear gas and the police arrest. And they fail, of course, as well, that tried the same thing. I'm talking about the trade union movements that have had a rich tradition of course, castigating and maligning, and, of course, talking for the barefooted man and the working class in this country. And they have not been able to shift Rowley, and let me be as specific as possible in terms of the shift I'm talking about. It is not that they do not accept and acknowledge Rowley and them I'm talking about. They are, and they are, of course, very, very volatile at this point in time, but they dare not demonstrate that in public. So they will utilize, of course, their friends in the police service and in the army, and, of course, in other agencies to try to literally hoodwink and at the same time intimidate, and to, of course, catch people on their back foot, and to, of course, generate a kind of fear, generate a kind of strong man and strong arm tactic to generate fear, but we must be fearless. And they stopped me from talking on radio that Rowley is a rapist and a pedophile, and I come and I create my own program where I will not be fettered or hindered. And every night I call him a rapist and a blasted pedophile, and I still send him a pre-action protocol letter on the matter. All of these things, all of the roles. So it is nothing new in terms of boots on the ground. We have done that. Tonight, what I am talking about is the community itself in preparation for the expulsion of Rowley and Day. We must come and have a consensus and a work plan that talks about the rehabilitation of the community and the role of communities such as Lavender and Day on the question of the transformation that is required in order, of course, to advance and to make them and rope them into the socio-economic and psycho-cultural matrix that is required to advance Trinidad and Tobago. Because let me tell you this, we get rid of Rowley and Day tomorrow, and the conditions in Laventille and those places remain the same, then we are in problems. I am not saying that in other communities that is not happening, but the fact of the matter is that our economy and our social and economic reality is tied into communities like these because it is regionally, hemispherically, and internationally recognized that the place that is most devious, in spite of our wishful thinking, are these places that are known to these international and metropolitan countries where we depend for our finances and investment. Let's go to the lines. Professor, good night. Professor, good night.
Good night again, Mr. Lennox.
Yes, good night to you.
Mr. Lennox,
hey,
on your conversation on this there, the United Nations, right, and UNICEF, since in the 80s coming up yours, 85, 89, and the early 90s, with the Israel, the Middle Eastern war, the civil war against the nations down there, what lasted over 27 and 28 years, among themselves, the United Nations had lobbied the world to say that we don't use the bullet, let's use the ballot, and let's conquer our enemies and let's live in harmony for the sake of betterment of the human race. And when you move on the other side of the continent, that is why we form different allies to fight injustice in the world, like what's going on right now in Ukraine, what's going on when you talk about in Switzerland, in Ireland, where they had a fight, then in Pakistan, Hindu against Muslims, in China, the Buddhists are against, they're fighting one another. And because of what? When the politicians and the leaders want their way with the treasury, they do mass destruction. And ours is not of any bullet and bombshell. It's about the human, disintegrating the human existence. They put us in a desert where we have an oasis, but they're taking away our oasis, our water, our life to exist. And this is what you're educating them about. And when you see, in the end of the day, when the amalgamated vehicle passing is known that is one ethnic group, and when they ask them and they do the research and the investigation back in our country, what lead you to this to reach here? Then you know how they get our work no way, are looking for our work. We had a mission, a vision and mission for ex-convict. Where that service gone? Where is the home? Where you see if our children can go and get education, look what they abuse the children sexually. Right now, without pedophile ring report on the death of some minister of high office in this country and what is going on. So this is the thing you are talking about, talking to get the people to change the narrative and the thinking, the way they think towards life on the whole. Because when you check, Brother Stain is there where the most of the activities taking place when it was the mainstream media. So we are talking out, and by talking out, everyone will pass the word on. Yes, from Cedros, Ikakas comes straight up every corner of this country, of this island. It it have wrongdoing. Huh? Look at the south down here, they call them petrified assets. And that pushed over 50,000 jobs, directly and indirectly, and service company and the hospitality and the food and beverage industry sector out of a job. And yet still, it have no, what we are looking for under our constitution, our rights, is for a fair share of our economic pie. That's what we fighting for. So that not one man will come and sit on a chair and take away our economic pie and give me the empty dish and tell me that is good for us. So we are fighting by the ballot and we are looking to resolve it as big people. We no longer in the caveman attitude, and we have to draw references because those who go to university and they are doing the presentation, they will see you have to draw references and quote the source of information. And that is why they call it history and history archives. You go into it and what it was in those days. Yeah? So when you use ethnicity, you use political, and now you're using the religious. So when Lord Christopher is saying, pray, how much of us will come up on Monday to go and have praise and worship by all their ministries to eradicate Satan and the devil so that our country will be safe? Who is willing to come out now to have praise and worship throughout the neck and breath? So have a nice night.
Yes, indeed. And that's the point I am making, that we need to be eclectic, we need to be poignant, and we need to identify the problem. And whether the and the prioritization for solution. I have never said, if I know, for example, that it's another ethnic group besides Africans are in the majority, the vast majority in the prisons, whether remand or actual making time, I will be the first. But you also have a situation where those who are leading the charge and have the resources of the country, the central bank and all of the material and institutional resources to make a difference, they acknowledge the problem as well is within a particular ethnic group along the East-West corridor in particular. And then it has been escalated into international trepidation. Trinidad and Tobago is not only seen as the sixth most violent place in the world, but of course, Trinidad and Tobago has the reputation, unenviable, of having the most terrorists in the world. Understand? It was Rowley who said that he is disappointed with the African community because they are under the what is considered to be the developmental and advancement threshold. It's not me. That is a fact that we cannot ignore. It is the international community that says, do not go to Laventille. It is, of course, when they do get caught, the house invasion, the home invasions, either the car they find out, or they might have held somebody because of some slip-up, and the police got information. They go somewhere in Laventille, East Motor Spain, and so on, and they find the vehicle that would have been used somewhere packed up in these communities. That is a fact. As a leader, I have to be naive and a damn ass not to identify that and to say, because what I am saying, let us, of course, come together as a community and address the problem by the community, for the community, and of the community. That is why I have those evidential pieces of newspaper articles to verify and to support my argument. The one just behind me now, the Canadian PM writes Lavatil Civic Group. Who you think they wrote? Who you think? How you think that happened? It's because we saw the problem and we decided to do something about it. And then the major impediment to it is the PNM. It's the government that has been in place for the longest that has created a shambolic situation, a disaster and chaos. Understand? That picture you see behind me, the MLIO begins 1991-92 training program. We think it's 300 young people. That's just the female part. We used to have a typical school, and look, you can watch at those youths and see that none of them is below the age of 16, at least 15 years. It's big women, and of course, I say big woman in the context of they being, of course, adolescents. The people who are creating the havoc and the problem right now today. And we did that, as you would see from the newspaper date. That since 91, we saw the problem. We are looking at solutions by the community, for the community, because the politicians who we rely on and repose faith has failed us. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Welcome to the corridor.
Yes. Hello again, Lennox.
Yes.
Listen, Lennox. Let me let you know what time it is with these people in this area they call Levantin. These people don't care how much you talk about. When you're talking about the jails full with them, when they catch, is that they live in these areas when they have the slip up. They don't care. They're proud of that. It's time you forget that. And let the people from central and south of the country make a big step. You could talk from now till then. Let's look how long you're talking. I tell you that first. And then I talk about other ills in the country with crime in other areas. Because when you put it all together, it's a whole big bomb. Some of these crimes that take place in other parts of the state, it has family members killing family members. That's terrible. When they kill, it'll be all kind of chop up. Brother dead, father dead. That don't sound good. And the last travel advisory, they spoke about St. Joseph. Look at Temple and what went on the other night there a week and a couple days ago. It's going all over. It's all over. Look what happened in Arima. Right? It's crime, whether it's black or white. They don't talk about the black people and, the people in Levantil mostly. When it have an advisory, is the whole country. It have down to the foreigners, these migrants. They committed heinous crime. When the international community hear about you finding body in garbage bags, body in drain, hand missing, head missing, that's terrible enough. It's not only the gun violence with the black people. At least when they kill people, it's in their family. Sometimes these migrants killing family, domestic violence, killing their wife, killing their brother or some cousin. So when these crimes get, they commit these crimes, it affects the whole country. Crime is crime. Whether you kill yourself, right? Suicide. It's contributing, and the suicide rate is high, right, Lennox? So this togetherness that you're on, I ain't seeing it happening. Now, you're talking too long on these things, not that you're talking long tonight, anyways, years you want to get it. You can't be talking that over and over. These people not listening. Let another part of the country, the people who vote for the UNC, make a strong stance. Thank you.
No, I want to say categorically, I generally disagree. Let me say that one time. Are you going to leave the situation as is and you have an opportunity to make an intervention and let them, of course, proliferate that all over the country by way of whether advertent or inadvertent policies and programs? Let me disabuse. And let me tell you, in fact, I don't have to indicate my qualifications to talk this kind of talk because I'm talking with authority. Let us take recently the destruction or the moving out of people from Duncan Street, for example, and putting them in any other part willy-nilly of the country. That is a policy initiated by the government. But you had to be a dumbass. Instead of engaging in containment, which is the argument I am making, and I want to be as clear as possible here. You send them all over the place, knowing full well that they have that inclination. If they're unemployed and they're accustomed, of course, parasiting on their community, Port of Spain, etc., or they go to Sangre Grande, etc., they will not engage in the same way. Understand what is happening here. And nothing could take away the statistics. I am not convinced that there is a significant problem, let's say, south of Caroni as opposed to north of Caroni. I am not convinced. And that there is a need to make the intervention by those who, and what you are seeing behind me are interventions that if they were supported by the administration, they would have been able, of course, to at least solve a major part of the problem or reduce the amount of problems that is there. You know, as Bishop Barbara Gray Burke, there were also, of course, a major organization run by not Penelope Beckles, but by Lystra Penny, a home for the socially displaced youths, and no support, even though we are talking about hundreds of young people gravitating, and therefore hundreds would have been solved problems. Let's go to the lines. I'm sorry that I have to be, of course, I have to go to the lines. A pleasant good night.
Well,
yes, a pleasant good night.
well, let's see what I say.
Go ahead.
You might vex us, man, but I agree with Miss Arima. I think
No
it's
problem.
Arima, right? Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
Because the government ain't doing nothing. No. Let me say what I say, please now. The government ain't doing
I'm not
anything.
interfering with you. I
And we
said
just
no problem.
talking. Lennox, here we're going on. You need to go to a mic in Lavantil and talk to the people. Pass on with a mic and talk to the people and talk to them. Put some sense in the head because not everybody in Lavantil listening your life. That's what I just say, Lennox. Good night and thanks.
Thank you very much. But I want to disagree again because this is not a Lavantil problem alone. Understand? I just gave an example that they just displaced people from Duncan Street and they will end up maybe in your community. What you going to do? What you will do? You will say that is a Lavantil problem and you go ignore it? Come on. There is a dire need to address that Lavantil question if we are to solve the problem of crime and criminality, gang warfare, and all of the home invasions, etc., etc. We're telling me about go into Lavantil and with a mic. That is an asinine suggestion. All of us are affected when there is international advices against Trinidad and Tobago, and people don't come and invest and build the factories and set up businesses. Don't you know that you and your family, etc., will have less options as far as work opportunities concerned. Don't you know that? Don't you know that? Don't you know that if this continues to fester, we may not have a society called Trinidad and Tobago at all? I just told you that the networks in the United States are saying that the only country in the Western Hemisphere that has terrorists, that has gone, of course, to the Middle East, is Trinidad. I just told you that Trinidad and Tobago is seen as the sixth in the world for crime and criminality, and of course, a place that you mustn't go. And you're saying that it is a Lavatil problem? It is a Lavatil problem, you say, you know? And the government now is engaged, of course, in the gentrification of the area by, of course, moving the people out and sending them all over. What you think going to happen to you? It's a Lavatil problem. I want to, of course, invite and I wanted to ensure that you have a sufficient degree of trepidation, of fright, to know how frightening the situation is. If the problem of these areas are not contained, and that there is a way to do it, and I'm saying by programs such as those, because it's over 300 of them that we alone from within the community, and don't tell me to stop. I will not. Quite apart from the fact that I am from there, but I understand the repercussions for the rest of the community. Let me tell you all something. In the prison, when, of course, fellas from all over the country meet up there, and these hardened criminals are inside of there, they exchange ideas, and if they are recidivists or persons who are bent on criminal behavior, what they do, they talk to each other to show how to get away in the execution of the crime, but more importantly, they become smart as to the judicial and the police system. So if they put a camera, for example, on Nelson Street, they may not move it at all if it is in Chaguanas or some other country area that has respect for not only the law, but are not inclined to engage in criminal behavior, so they have nothing to lose. They will go where the camera is blind and knock down the camera. Knock down the camera. You're telling me that this is what a Lavatil question? Are you mad? Are you insane? Are you Rowley and there, who is totally blind to the reality of Trinidad and Tobago today? No. I will not accept that. Because if we do not do something, in fact, I was telling you about Penny and of course, as Mr. Barbara Grayburg and others, people like God, Christopher and others, who have taken the time. Dr. Khalid is here, does be here on a Sunday, and he is inside, of course, MOVA and environs in Misir. And what do you think that work is all about? Preventing the next generation from gravitating to a life of crime so that you can live and your own generations can live quietly in your respective area that has not yet been invaded or in any way intimidated by these marooned potential bunch of individuals. That is what we are facing. That is what we are facing. And when, of course, at one time, along these programs, I met with Hazel Manning, the Minister of Education, and she was strident. Look where them Indians and them put them schools and them. The one, of course, in Blanchishes, and the one, of course, in just off Sangre Grande there. And I had to tell her, it's not just you I'm talking. I speak this way. I tell her as it is. I say, why are you looking at these schools that are required? That's the first question. Are they required or not? Yes, they are. Because these people are not served by the education system. So the schools were well placed. But she tried to hit me as sort of Indian preference and abuse talk. And I had to tell her, I say, along the East-West corridor, per community. There are more schools and more churches than anywhere else in the country. There are more schools and churches than anywhere else in the country. And guess what? And guess what? And guess what? The problem is their self. You have to be telling me, how do we get these young people to get back to work, get into their books, and of course compete? This is what we are talking about, a serious discussion here. Professor, good night. Welcome to the corridor. Professor, good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Mr. Lennox.
Yes.
Yeah, you're quite right with saying, but I want to raise the pressure too, because should Joel sleeping in the bed now, and that is responsibility you own. Right? Because we have a whole defense force and doing nothing. Nothing them further than doing. You understand? And these people, look what's going on in Ecuador or one of South American country with this job and gave from the prison. State of emergency, they call one time. And like they say, one prisoner get away. We have gangs of people doing all kind of mayhem, and they call no state of emergency. You understand? So don't raise the pressure, because the man who's supposed to be doing that is sleeping in the night. He's sleeping now.
I hear you. But I beg to differ again. I have a duty and responsibility as a citizen of this country to be worrisome. And what we are looking at here, therefore, is getting rid of those impediments. And I'm saying central to the solution is getting rid of the PNM. That is all I'm saying. And if Lavatille and these places are not prepared, of course, to respond, the 33% and those marginal seats must now recognize that they are in mortal danger, and therefore they must, of course, get rid of these people in order for us to have some degree of salvation and respite. Let's go straight to the lines. President, good night. President, good night.
Good night, Mr. Lennox again. Mr. Lennox, let me do a little analysis. Toko, come on, what is the avenue for employment in Toko? Come down to Sandy Grande. What we have to sustain employment? What is the industries? What is the spin-off? What is the economic commerce going on up there? When we come down from Sandy Grande, we come down to Valencia. What is in Valencia? What is there for the people to be employed? Eh? What we talk about sustainable employment is the quarry, right? They gravitate to how much employment they can create. We talk about government being $6 billion to spend for the betterment of the citizens. When we come down, you see the Repo farm, what it create jobs. Just lower down at Valencia, you see they give it to their friend to harvest stone for building roads and filling the contracts. Then they come lower down to Pune, and we coming down to the Repo Heights, and where we talking on Waterfield on the other side. What sustainable income it have and industries to support employment. When they come lower down to the Obira, what they have in Obira, in Arima, is just a few manufacturers coming down into the Twin City area. Then you have the industrial area there. How much people employ and sustain on a day-to-day basis? Eh? So when they come down, lower down to the Pune, St. Augustine, Golden Grove, what is the employment opportunity? And these are the areas that take it from one end and throw it on the other end, scattering them like a proceed. Eh? When they come down into the Pune, you see them moving the farm to build house, to put others who to serve the narrative to keep them in power. When it comes to St. Joseph, it have a few manufacturers of that area, to the Mongo area. They close down a lot of businesses. Then they come to the Caribbean. How much employment it have? Then you come straight down. You're coming down now after the Mongo, coming down, lower down on the East-West corridor, closer to the Barrett area. You think those big businesses, office work, how much of them, then you have the manufacturing sector of the Universal brand. How much people are employed there? And then when we reach Lavantil, the foot of Lavantil now on the other side of Maritime Plaza, what sustainable income it have for the people is the store work. And how much store they have? Where things go down? What is the program? What is the assistance they giving to these people for sustainable income? So we identify why these people and what is the problem and how, for instance, when they are so action, the PLM government especially to acknowledge these things, just as what the PNM today are neglecting everybody, and that's only for themselves. They understand that when you cross the Port of Spain, Lavantil area, you're going into St. James. When you go into St. James, it's the police barracks and it's big business. Now you're meeting the people who control the economy and the world. Then when they go down, you have the servants, the grass cutters. Then when they jump lower down, you meet an next piece of people who vulnerable, the squatters and those who need employment. Because why? Shagala was on the other side, the Electoral was on them. They build, they are the servants and the maids for them areas. And there is the kind of employment because it's less jobs, more population to them. What is that? To sustain economic growth. And then in a constituency of the Martin, the president fought and populated to keep themselves in power. Just like going to do with Lavantil. And the whole truth today is about they are using the people and they are simply telling them, come out of that bondage and be better off. How much of them in Lavantil say to go and get a visa to go on the farm program in Canada? How about that?
Yes, indeed. And the more I deepen this discussion, is the more my understanding is of how little people understand the socio-economic and psycho. I mean no untowardness, but of course it is a considered position, because I want to let what I'm sure none of you know. There is a certain section, a specific group of individuals that are engaged in crime and criminality. That's the first thing. A certain specific group. And the evolution of it, I'll leave you with this because I'm going to continue tomorrow because I have to explain what is happening behind me there to demonstrate what is the solution. And I'll leave you with one major solution that I have recommended over the years. But let me just tell you. You see URP? URP is a program where the elements that didn't do well in school, but they are criminal oriented, they would engage in crime and of course to survive. Well, it was the URP, quite apart from of course the presence of the late, of course, Baka. I'll take you all there so you will understand where I'm coming from. But what transpired with that URP in particular, I'm only using URP as a critical example. Fellas who wanted, of course, to get the spoils of URP, they changed their addresses from Diego Martin to Port of Spain, to Tunapuna, to Arima, to Sandy Grande. And it was the common denominator. The so-called, what we call today, gang leader, who spread out and identify each one of these areas and when they live in order to dominate URP. None of you know that. None of you. I can say that without fear of contradiction. And right where they were, or right where they established themselves, they then start, of course, to formulate their gangs, or members of their gangs move out. So a fellow from Diego Martin who realized that, let's say, Sean Francis, well, he leave and go in Kurep and dominate there. And the fella, he goes to Tunapuna. And so they have ended up on the east-west corridor. And of course, in the foothills of the northern range, the northern part, where behind Mount Lambert and so on, and behind, of course, Tunapuna. Notice that they go there and live and spread this blasted thing. And then when the housing arrangements come, whether it be Maloney, whether it be La Hokata, whether it be the more recent ones, and they go there. Don't you know that, of course, one of the housing facilities opposite King City, they divide that housing facility into Bitam, Silats, Chumakak, you know? Yes, let me disabuse you. Let me make you understand what we are dealing with here. It is not a simple case of leaving them to their own whim and fancy. They will mash up the whole country. They will mash up the whole country. And if you have a government that does not understand that is containment rather than, of course, the transplantation of these people, as has happened, of course, to Arima because of the transplantation that occurred many years ago, ignorant as they were, with respect, of course, to Bologna and the La Hokata. How you think consistent as a crime hotspot? Because of those communities that were transplanted originally from Lavatil and Bitam and Silats and John, etc. You're talking to one who is well familiar and has been in it. Look behind me. The youth needs MLIO, says residents. MLIO is the Mobile Lavatil Improvement Organization, which I founded, and I dealt with all of them. And let me tell you something, if that didn't exist, the situation today and then would have been worse. We were able to take them out and put them into well-paying jobs and give them a skill, etc. It is much more than just creating employment opportunities. Well, they don't know, so therefore I will take another day, but not tomorrow because tomorrow is Friday. I will do it on Saturday. And let me edify. Look, we went as far as Grenada. Look, this one here, the Grenada PM, back to our program, MLIO, the Mobile Lavatil Improvement Organization. That's what that MLIO means. We went, of course, I went into Washington. I met with, of course, some intellectuals there, came back, of course, with a program to treat with it. But the PNM is the impediment to all of the problems of the East-West corridor and by extension, the entire country. And I want to say that there is a solution. Don't feel that it's a give-up thing. Don't feel that is you put up your hand in the air and say that you can't make an intervention to solve it, because we have 1986 to, of course, approve. We have 1995 government change. We have 2000 government change. We have 2010 government change. And, of course, in Tobago, the most recent incarnation to say that the PNM can be whipped and can be licked out of the politics. And we must, of course, whether Lavatil want to go, whether any other constituency that seem to want to commit suicide and have us follow them, we must say no. And of course, that 33% call marginal seats. You know you have a duty and responsibility to get out there, because we have tried everything else. We went en masse. I just proved it to you with foot on the ground, and it has not budged this government. They're prepared to use the police and all of the institutions against us, including, of course, the EBC, and then therefore we have to find a different approach. And the different approach is that we have to go international, we have to go regional, and we have to, of course, insist on every night. If I have to, I will, of course, engage. I will engage. Because I come from a school that talks about the human spirit is indomitable. And that where there is impediment, evil cannot prevail over good. MLIO invited to Washington University. I went and lectured on Lavatil in Washington. And the arrangement was that we were taking, of course, the people who were children going to that university from Capitol Hill. Yes, from Capitol Hill, the place of government in the United States. And we were to have an exchange program and they were coming down to see what is happening, and people from Laventille will be going up to see, so that we begin the process of attitudinal change and the transformation that is required. This program is not called transformation for joke. A serious business, and those are the proof. And I'm going to continue, and on Saturday we will continue this, because it is important once and for all to disabuse and to avoid the simpletons that believe that you can leave Laventille alone and of course everything will come home. You're crazy? You're crazy? You're mad? People, we have come to the end, of course, of tonight's program. Very, very, very interesting, of course. I love these kinds of engagement. Don't feel that my pressure is up. But, of course, I love to, of course, express myself in that way so as to emphasize so that you wouldn't forget what was said tonight. You get it from the best and from the horse's mouth. And as I said, I ain't afraid none of them. I ain't afraid any of them, in other words, to say it correctly, because when you say two negatives in a sentence, it means a positive. So I have to say, I am not afraid of any of them. If I say I am not afraid of none of them, I mean that I afraid them. No. So we will, of course, from time to time engage. Look, the United Nations Development Program recognize the MLI doing. It is the PNM mashup that, and as I said, if the work of Archbishop Burke, Penny, and they, of course, got Christopher and so on, were recognized, we would not have had the problem, and we would not have had this discussion tonight, where, of course, I hope I have not inveigled or in any way attracted your trepidation, but it is a reality, and I am not an alarmist individual, but I'm a pragmatist, and I'm saying that if we do not address that problem in Laventille, the entire country will feel the wrath. Understand that. Leave Laventille alone. Well, they're mad. And so, of course, a pleasant good night. And, of course, we see tomorrow. Don't forget, of course, Andy, Mikey, and myself. Don't forget, Andy is under the weather a bit, so he will not be as forceful and as aggressive and as with the effervescence that is required. Look, that one there, MLIO. Let me just go back that. Let me just go back that one. Let me just go back that one. Where of Noah Hassan Ali giving fellas who was holding guns special award. That fella, he ended up working in the hospital. That is the team. That is the kind of youth. Watch on the faces. You know that they are 16 and 17 and above. We understood the problem since back then. But it was the PNM and Manning and their vindictiveness want to know Lennox Smith's political position and scuttled whatever subvention we were getting, etc. And today they are feeling the pain. And we must, of course, rub it in, because you're right, they have the responsibility and cannot do it. But it doesn't mean to say that when Kamala Prasad-Bissessar comes in, we must, of course, leave it to their whim and fancy and perception, as I have heard tonight. It tells me that there's very little that people out there know about that situation that I need, of course, to edify. You are talking to an expert on that particular subject. Laventille Group prepares for end to violence. That was long time ago. Every 2 years, we have a crime symposium under an organization called the Ad Hoc Committee for the Eradication of Crime in Laventille, because those of us who are conscious recognize the problem and decided, of course, to do something about it. And it doesn't matter whether I talk. It doesn't matter whether I act. The fact of the matter is that if we were not talking and if we were not acting as we have done, the situation would have been worse. Situation would have been worse. Understand that. And nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. I was invited by the Royal Bank to talk about the whole question of crime and the bottom line of banks and other businesses. And I told them in all certain terms that if these young men catch all your burglar-proof homes or well-fortified offices, they will catch you on the thoroughfare, meaning that to and from work in your fancy cars and so on. And it has materialized. It has materialized. And I talked that a long time ago when I addressed the National Security Council, incidentally, before Hines, because Manning didn't want him at all, would not have even been considered to be national security, should I say, office cleaner, far less to be the minister. Hines. Come on. And let me tell you something too. When I met with Manning, with Archbishop Barbara Gray Burke, and of course, the late Archbishop as well, who was very vociferous on the question of the Baptist community. He told me that YTEP was coming to being and he will make me a director of it because of the work that I'm doing, so they recognize it, and that is why they called me to address the National Security Council. It's only this ass Rowley who playing that he knows nothing and believe that he could generate vendetta and vindictiveness because, of course, I call him a rapist and a pedophile. That has nothing to do with the objective and the work to, of course, treat with the 1.5 million people that are under siege today. And it's his fault. His fault. And he don't want, of course, to have any discussion on crime with the opposition leader after he initiated it. Well, I will be attending, of course, the opposition symposium or the discussion on crime, and I'm coming with my documents. 1,000 pages we have. Only make a joke or what? Only make a joke. Only know nothing. Nothing. Take what I tell you. Only know nothing. When I finish talk on Saturday, and I may well have to go to Sunday, you all will understand why it is that Laventille must be addressed. Must be. And I'm vexed with Laventille because Laventille ought to impose their will and their prowess and their loyalty to the PNM and Balize House by, of course, insisting that their problems be solved by the PNM simply because it was 2 seats that Laventille gave them to stay and keep their head above political waters. But the leaders in there weak. Laventille leaders weak. As we saw with Desperados, how the hell Desperados could allow the Prime Minister to tell them to go on Nelson Street and the tourists will come there and you have gunshots and drive-by shootings like if it's going out of style. Like it's going out of style. All you know the proximity of St. Paul Street, Duncan Street, and Nelson Street. But let me tell all you something. On a kilometer in a straight line, less than a kilometer, and they're killing each other with drive-by shooting because they have the resources, and they have, of course, vehicles and cell phones, etc. Even when it was scarce, we warned them about that. We warned the authorities, we warned Manning and them about that, and they never listened. And so, I listened to you. You can't say I didn't listen. You can't say that I wasn't patient. But I need to of course, demonstrate authority on this subject. Don't study Mikey and Andy and they, when they talk about Lennox is a Laventille lover, and of course, they will never do this and never do that. Because the matter is deeper than that. When I work there, I am saving the rest of the country, including them. And so I don't bother with that kind of talk. But you cannot come on this program and engage me and believe that I am going to, of course, just simply, complacently, and of course, absorbingly not disclose my authority on this particular subject. I can give you stories upon stories upon stories. Look, the Canadian PM writes Laventille. It's MLIO he writes. Because of the work they recognized we were doing. Look, MLIO employment facilities, we did that. And it was computerized, the first computer literacy program in our community, right in Mova. We had it. And today, Rowley and them dismantled everything. God tried something, and that was gone. Look, Noor Hassan Ali given, of course. I could never forget him. Devines. He started to work after that in the hospital. Yes, we saved them, and we saved you. We continue, of course, to treat with it. If Trinidad was a boat, then we will continue to sail on it. I think it's a good one to end as we start.
When the tide is next, if she going to hell and back, I go make the trip, I bound to make the trip. I sailing with the boat, sink or float, I sailing with the boat. I sailing with the boat, sink or float, I sailing with the boat. Through hurricane and storm, hell or high water come. Push, I'm going to push like bush. If Trinidad is a boat, I go sail on it, sink or float. Under scrutiny, who plotting mutiny. Now watching them, I say I'm watching them. Who giving the captain lip, and all who abandon ship. And I'm marking them, I say I'm marking them. Stowaways, cheap and free passage. Castaways, with excess baggage. Crimson pirates, moving into kill. But I'm sailing still, I say I'm sailing still. I'm sailing with the boat, sink or float, I'm sailing with the boat. I'm sailing with the boat, sink or float, I'm sailing with the boat. Through hurricane and storm, hell or high water come. And when she needs a push, I'm going to push like push. If Trinidad is a boat, I go say sink or float. I am a sailor by birth, calypso in